So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Caroline from Stockport Jobs Match, and today I'll be hosting our first Future World of Work webinar for careers advisors. So thanks very much to those of you who've joined us live and take the time out of a busy day or at the end of a very busy day, and also to those who are watching the session later. So this event is aimed at careers advice and guidance professionals, which may include, as it says, head teachers or principals at schools and colleges, subject teachers or curriculum leaders, careers advice specialists or school liaison advisors, home educators or independent tutors, employment support or training providers who work with young people, as well as youth workers and outreach workers. And the rationale behind today's session is to recognise the incredible challenges faced by our young people that have perhaps been escalated over the past couple of years, and to recognise and acknowledge the circumstances in which you're all trying to deliver the best range of careers advice and guidance to meet academic objectives, but also to raise aspirations and improve the outcomes for our young people here in Stockport. So some of the things that we're going to cover as part of today's session include the key challenges that we are facing in delivering careers advice post-COVID, the latest LMI information for the Stockport region, future plans for Stockport economic growth, a look at some of the vocational routes for post-16 study options, the fantastic range of support that's available from both Stockport Jobs Match and local partners, as well as the importance of work experience and how to access it. So a huge amount to get through in today's session. And the guest speakers that we're going to be hearing from include Richard Mortimer, Head of Economy, Work and Skills at Stockport Council, Matt Lee, ASK Programme Manager from Greater Manchester Learning Provider Network, Claire Walker, Enterprise Coordinator at Gmax, Ian Mcgarry, IAG Manager at Greater Manchester Hire, Rhiannon Collins from Speakers for Schools, and Nancy and Emma from the Prince's Trust. So, before we come on to our first guest speaker, I just wanted to touch on the context and background for delivering careers advice to young people in 2022. So over the past few years, we've had, a couple of big things to deal with, shall we say, and some of the biggest collective worries that are impacting on the future world of work include things like globalisation, digital transformation, Brexit and its impact on jobs, technology, labour supply, future skills shortages and investment, for example. The climate crisis. So everyone's going to need to understand the climate crisis and its impact on businesses in much the same way that everybody needs a certain level of digital fluency or social media awareness, for example, together with understanding its impact on health, food supplies, travel and transport, energy, where we live, how we work, how we do business, etc. Obviously, COVID-19, we're all clearly aware of the impact of the pandemic on physical and mental health, social and emotional well-being, but also the additional impact to those who were already disadvantaged in our society pre-pandemic, and many of whom were also more vulnerable to contracting COVID because of health or socioeconomic reasons. In recent weeks, we could probably add something about the European conflict on there, but hopefully, it's not part of the slides because we can brush over that for now and try and focus on a lighter feel for today's session. So what that means in terms of the challenges that are facing our young people today, that as careers advisors, we really need to be in tune with. So it's not an exhaustive list, but some of the key factors to be aware of include things like living standards. So people having less disposable income because of inflation and potential challenges to economic growth, which could play a big role in the decisions that young people make about their career pathways and next step. And those who were in poverty pre-COVID being in greater financial hardship. Employment rates and skills shortages, which could make it more or less competitive to join the labour market in different sectors. obvious sector growth and contractions in some areas. So a change in landscape for in-demand jobs, some sectors becoming extinct, whereas others experiencing a boom. The fact that many of the jobs of the future may not even exist at the moment. Maybe workers being displaced from one sector, taking up roles in another. The loss of knowledge-based workers or older workers from the workforce, for example. An increase in NEET, in lost young people who have exited employment, exited education, not started in employment, not claiming benefits, who are need to be picked up on. Lower standards of academic attainment, perhaps, and qualifications and skills as a result of the 2-year period that we've had. Natural mental and physical health issues. And the knock-on effect of a lack of work-ready skills and confidence. So lots of challenges that we need to be made aware of. So what can we as careers advisors do to be positive agents of change and try and counter or respond or adapt to some of these challenges? Well, first of all, I've put down a focus on social equality and justice. So as well as being more community focused, helping young people to develop and build individual and community assets and empowering them to not only help themselves, but also others in their families and communities too. Certain element of normalising volatility, uncertainty and ambiguity. I think we're all used to coping with change a little bit more than we perhaps were over the course of the last few years, but really helping young people to become more adaptable, more resilient, so that they can successfully manage unexpected life and career transitions along their career journey. Having a really good awareness of up-to-date political, economic, social, technical, legal and environmental factors, as well as an up-to-date LMI, so labour market insights knowledge, whether that's globally, nationally, regionally or hyper-localised. Also doing more creatively, being more imaginative in our role to engaging with non-traditional stakeholders, be it tapping into the fantastic range of funding and support services on offer locally, building relationships with local employers, social enterprises or the local authority, and coming along today is a good step towards that. Promoting lifelong learning, so encouraging young people to constantly upskill and reskill, as well as considering other ways to perhaps future-proof their careers and prepare for what's ahead of us. Promoting awareness of employment rights and supporting positive physical health and mental well-being, which are obviously key to successful outcomes and long-term employment. So we're going to start on that theme. Obviously, you know, I highlighted lots of the challenges that we're facing, but we're going to focus on the positive elements today. So start our session off by being positive agents of change. So whether you're watching this now or in the future, there'll be some key action points that you can take away as part of this webinar, things that you can do tangibly to make a difference. So on that note, we're going to come quite nicely to Richard Mortimer, Head of Economy, Work and Skills at Stockport Council, who's going to outline for us a little bit about the current economic landscape here in Stockport, as well as introducing the Stockport Borough Plan to highlight some of the challenges we can expect to see over the next few years. So I will pass you over to Richard now, and it'll just take me a couple of minutes to bring up Richard's slides, but hopefully he'll be able to start by giving you a nice introduction.
Thanks, Caroline. Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. And as Caroline says, you know, here at the council, we've been working on the borough plan under the One Stockport brand. I hope you're all familiar with that brand that was kind of created during the pandemic, really, as a response to the situation and the conditions that everyone was facing, and that sense of kind of all being in it together. And that we needed to support one another really through a variety of things, whether that was shopping local, keeping the Stockport pound going round in local businesses, etc., through to some of the great stuff that we saw with communities providing support to one another and helping out from, you know, doing shopping for each other, etc., through to other activities as well. So I'm going to talk to you about the Stockport Economic Plan principally. It is an economic plan that sits under the One Stockport Borough Plan banner, if you like, and there's a suite of plans that you can see here in this graphic that sit under the Borough Plan that are interrelated. Transport clearly has connectivity and crossover into the economy. The Climate Action Now strategy is really important, as Caroline was saying earlier, but also things like the housing plan, you know, where a workforce is going to live locally, and the local plan, which is essentially a plan around land use for housing, where are sites for economic activity, etc. So they are very closely interrelated and all sit under that One Stockport Borough Plan. There's also some key partnership delivery plans which are interrelated and connected, the One Health and Care Plan and the Children and Family Strategy, for example. So these things that we need to work out really in terms of where some of the actions sit in terms of primacy, because clearly things like roads and transport infrastructure and broadband and digital infrastructure are important things, and they have a read across into the economic plan, but they don't necessarily need to sit there as being led from that plan rather than being referred across to it. So structurally, that's what we're looking at the moment. We commissioned a consultancy called Hatch, who did a great job of putting together a huge evidence base and data set for us. It's about 100 pages, and I'll be able to circulate that to you via Caroline if you like, because in there is an awful lot of vital information about labour market conditions, what's going on, where we currently are, as well as some forward-facing forecasting information, which I'm going to touch on briefly in a moment. So if we could just move that slide on, Caroline, please. So here, just a quick bit about why Stockport needs an economic plan. We've seen a decade of unprecedented growth and investment, and we're well positioned for further growth. You'll have seen that hopefully around the town in terms of investment in transport infrastructure and lots of changes that have been going on there. Lots of town centre regeneration projects and placemaking going on, new employment sites, investment in green jobs. Stockport, as part of the Greater Manchester economy and family, makes a significant and distinctive contribution to the GM economy. We've got a strong skills base, we know that, lots of highly educated and skilled and qualified resident population in Stockport. We've got a very active voluntary community faith and social enterprise sector, third sector traditionally, and we also have fast growing knowledge sectors in Stockport. Not many people necessarily know, though, that we've also got a key role in logistics, distribution and high-tech manufacturing. There are literally thousands and thousands of computer chips being made in Stockport every day, and not many people would necessarily know about that, for example. Clearly, when you look at this map, we're strategically located in a dynamic and exciting city region, very close to the airport, for example. We've got great transport connectivity, 6 trains an hour to London. The fastest one gets you there in under 2 hours. Depending on which train you get the other way, we're anywhere from 7 to 12, 18 minutes into Manchester Piccadilly, as well as our proximity to that motorway network through the M60. So lots and lots of positive things and lots of great stuff. However, through the work of the economic plan, we know that there are some really significant key challenges. One of the main things, and Caroline touched on it earlier, is that we know not everyone is sharing in Stockport's growth and the benefits that that brings. So one of the really strong things that you'll see through the plan is around being fair and inclusive, and that's a really important aspect for us in Stockport in terms of what we want to achieve and address going forward. Stockport is the 8th most polarised borough in England in terms of deprivation. So that we see in terms of things like the difference, for example, in life expectancy for adult males. So an adult male living in Bramall will on average live 12 years longer than an adult male living in Brinnington, for example. And that's a pretty stark feature in our local demographic and our profile. And we know that there are a range of factors involved in that, but people's access to good work is key and you know will be important in terms of addressing that issue and pulling it back in the right direction. Something else that we're conscious of, and I'm sure you all are as well, in terms of how it works because of the maths, our borough-wide averages do mask acute and highly localised challenges. You know, when you look at the averages for Stockport's performance across a range of factors, it looks pretty strong and pretty good. But we know that underneath that number, in particular localised pockets and areas, there are people who aren't experiencing that level of performance and productivity and success that those numbers might normally indicate at an average level. So diversification of our economy is going to be crucial. I'm going to show you a graphic in a moment that will show you that some of our largest employment sectors are forecast to decline. And again, you know, part of the agenda for us, I think, in this group who are meeting here, is about what do we do about that, and how do we prepare young people for the future that's coming, rather than perhaps, you know, getting them ready for things that are in decline and won't be as strong or as significant going forward. Despite some strong employment growth in Stockport, we lag behind on productivity compared to GM and the UK, and we also have an ageing workforce, so there's an issue about succession planning and future workforce requirements there. And it's, you know, a really interesting feature about Stockport in terms of our economy has a lot of foundational level jobs, low skills, low pay type features going on. So whilst we have quite high numbers of people in work, our productivity levels aren't as strong as they could be. And we know we've got an awful lot of resident population who are highly skilled and qualified who travel out of the borough to well-paid jobs in the city, for example. Greening the economy is a major opportunity. You know, the green economy and that agenda about net zero, supporting climate adaptation amongst business and residents will be critical. And I think it's not maybe overplaying it really to think that, you know, that green economy opportunity represents almost like another industrial revolution. You know, we're on the cusp of some significant major changes. There'll be lots of job opportunities, lots of opportunities for innovation and creativity. And there's no reason why, in terms of the resources and the skills and the good things we have in Stockport, that Stockport couldn't be at the leading cutting edge of some of those developments in terms of technological solutions, battery technology, etc. So that's a big opportunity for Stockport and our young people in terms of future growth and success. Clearly, in Stockport, you know, we need to align with the Greater Manchester Combined Authority and government priorities for levelling up, for example, in innovation. I hope you may be aware that on Monday, Greater Manchester launched its new strategy. And if you look at that document, I hope you'll see that there's a lot of fit and close alignment with the economic plan and what our ambitions are and the sorts of issues we think are important to address. So overall, as Caroline has said, we want a positive, outward-looking and confident Stockport going forward, and the economic plan is looking to set that up for us. So, just in very brief summary then, in terms of where we are at the moment with the plan, we're in a check and challenge phase, so it's a very live document, very dynamic. So if you guys have a look at it and want to feed in, suggest changes or things that you think we've missed, by all means, please do so. Email me, my details are at the end of the presentation, and we can add in anything extra that we need to make sure that we capture the right things. So fair and inclusive is the first pillar in the plan, and really, really important because of those issues I've talked about in terms of people having a different experience of the benefits that are being brought by the investment in the town and the opportunities that are available depending on where they are in terms of demographics, etc. We need to be an enterprising and productive borough. Again, that issue around productivity, but also innovation and creativity. So I think there are some interesting opportunities for our young people around what we know around business startup opportunities and growing on businesses, etc. I saw a very impressive young person who was part of Greater Manchester Youth Combined Authority. He was a young person who I think, my best guess is they were possibly about 19, and they were the chief executive of a digital business that they'd started. You know, phenomenal achievement really, and no reason at all why Stockport young people couldn't be doing the same thing in that space. Being climate friendly and resilient, critically important for us. You know, that green agenda is huge. There are lots of opportunities, but also lots of imperatives for us to respond and start making changes that will benefit our climate, for everything from clean air through to lower reliance on gas and hydrocarbons from parts of the world where we'd probably at the moment certainly prefer not to be doing any trade. And resilience is also key. You know, the last 2 years, the pandemic has taught us that it's really important that businesses are able to survive economic shocks, and that they're in a good place to do so in terms of anything from cash reserves through to skills and adaptation. Lots of businesses that we saw in Stockport did well by pivoting to an online presence, for example, and doing delivery orders, rather than having a shop front that was not able to be open because of the lockdown. And then accessible and connected, that is really important. We've got a good starting point, but we need to make sure that that continues to be fit for purpose and the right thing for us to have to unlock those opportunities for sustainable growth, and that we do the right kinds of things around journey times and planning for workforce so that Stockport is an attractive place to work and an attractive place for employers to come and base their businesses. Thanks, Caroline. If we can move on. Okay, so this is a look at the kind of employment by sector at the moment, 2019 versus 2040, in terms of that forward forecasting that Oxford Economics have done. And you'll see the red line is the 2040 position and the dark line is the 2019 position. And there's some quite big changes across some of those. Wholesale and retail, perhaps unsurprisingly, is going to be shrinking, whereas human health and social work looks like it's going to grow quite significantly, along with professional, scientific and tech, for example. So I think these sorts of signals are the things that we should be attending to as a community of practitioners around the education and information advice that we give to young people about where opportunities are for, you know, good jobs and growth and being successful. One that's not quite as pronounced on here, but which is really important, and I think for me personally, maybe I have an interest in it, is around our creative, digital and media. You know, it's astonishing to me that we've got the likes of ITV and the BBC over at Salford Quays, and there's nothing to stop our young people accessing the good jobs and the opportunities there around a whole range of things that could be everything from office-based roles, legal, HR functions, through to actually operating cameras, doing production and performance, lighting, sound. You know, it's endless really in terms of the opportunities that there are in that sector. And we know nationally, for example, because we need to think about that lens as well, the likes of Netflix and Warner Brothers are bringing productions into the UK because of the skills that we have, which they class as world leading. So we should be part of that in Stockport for sure. Thanks, Caroline. Okay, just some nice pictures that I thought you'd like to see about the graphics, and just to reiterate a point about the amount of investment that's going into Stockport. I hope those of you who are in Stockport regularly will have noticed that there's a significant amount of investment, billions of pounds going in terms of changes to old retail spaces that have fallen out of use and that aren't that attractive. So that's the stock room and the stock options. Stock, you might recognise, was the building that had Marks and Spencer's in it, for example. The underbanks just before the pandemic hit was really starting to get noticed and take off as a sort of equivalent space in Stockport to what's the Northern Quarter in Manchester, for example, in terms of quite a bohemian feel. There were lots of new little clubs and cafes and places to drink, and, you know, nighttime economy was starting to build. All of that had the skids put on it when COVID kicked in, but there's no reason why we can't resume that journey now. And the Stockport interchange, you know, is a really radical design in terms of having a 2-acre park on the roof of the bus station, essentially. I don't know about the rest of you. I certainly wasn't particularly enamoured with what was there before in terms of its attractiveness and look. So the new interchange, I think, will be a remarkable landscape feature for Stockport, and that green space in the heart of the town will be really, really vibrant and I think really helpful as a meeting place and for people to do all sorts of things, including pop-up stall activities, for example. Next slide, please. Again, just a few more. Weir Mill, you might be aware of. That is going to be the start of what you can see there, which is us trying to make a bit more use of the river as a feature in Stockport. It's largely covered over under Mersey, but where it emerges out at Weir Mill, there's a real opportunity for us to get some of that kind of pavement cafe, F&B, hospitality type stuff going on, and that will bring lots of jobs and lots of opportunities into Stockport. St Thomas's Gardens is going to have a cutting edge intermediate care facility where we're going to look at different ways of training and supporting people around care roles to support people to return to being independent in their living rather than going into care, etc. And then this bottom right one I just want to flag to you is the Cheadle Eco Business Park. So that's on Birdhall Lane, and there's a really exciting opportunity for us to develop modern industrial space that also delivers on that green agenda, which is really important, as we've said already. Thanks, Caroline. So very quickly then, in terms of emerging priorities, The economic plan is going to be used as a lever really to try and utilise Stockport's unprecedented growth to benefit all local people and businesses and to make the Stockport pound go further. We really want to deliver what we're referring to as a minimum standard of prosperity. That needs to be articulated more clearly and a bit more kind of obviously, I think, in terms of what that means and what that looks like. For me, for example, what it means is Andy Burnham made an announcement on Monday that in the next 12 months, all local authorities in the GM family will only procure and commission businesses that have committed to paying the living wage. They've got an action plan for delivering on net zero, and they're going to sign up to the GM Good Employment Charter, which enshrines lots of additionality around training and progression pathways and skills development for workforce. And I think that's a sign of the kind of seriousness of the level of ambition in GM, and we need to be following that through in Stockport as well. So I won't bother reading through the rest of those. I'm sure you can read those for yourselves when you get the slides. But the thing to kind of hang on to with the economic plan is we want it to be disruptive and radical, and we want it to change things. What we can't have and what we don't want is to just keep doing what we've always been doing, because we'll end up back where we are now, and that's not the place we want to be. It's not a bad place necessarily, but there are features of it we want to change, and we want to push and accelerate the step change we can achieve and just be far more ambitious and aspirational about what we want for our communities and our young people in particular. So in terms of what we need to do, this is just some initial kind of early stage thinking. We're developing a delivery plan, which will have actions linked to the economic plan. That will be ready by about June this year. But for now, in relation to our young people, clearly, I think we need to support young people and parents and carers, because we know they're significant in terms of decision making that goes on, to see and understand the range of opportunities available to them and the pathways. We know that academic routes are good for some in terms of that university kind of outcome that some people want to go on to. But again, just before the pandemic, we were becoming aware that there was, an increasing kind of demand for information and knowledge and awareness about vocational options, particularly apprenticeships. That whole earn while you learn option is probably much more realistic and a much better fit for some of our young people, certainly going forward. We know that we need to successfully engage employers to change their behaviours, and that's around recruitment, selection, training, work experience placements that they should be offering, but also critically, I think, their engagement and contribution to the skills system and curriculum design. The challenge that we want to bring to employers through the economic plan work is for them to get into the room and talk to providers about what is the content around the qualifications that they're delivering, rather than just coming back to us at the end of it all saying, oh, this person's arrived and they've got this piece of paper with a qualification on, but they don't have some of the skills or many of the skills I actually need in my business. If they get involved in changing that, then that will be for the better, but they need to be part of the solution. We want to increase the touch points with employers for young people to learn about and experience the world of work from a younger age. I think we all know about Gatsby benchmarks and the demands that they place on us all. But that is, again, critically important, because we know that the outcomes for young people are far better if they get more involved with understanding the world of work and what that's about from a younger age. How young, I think, is a debate we need to have and see how far we can push that. I would suggest that possibly from year 6 and 7 wouldn't be unreasonable, but other people might disagree. We can have the debate. Supporting young people with innovation and business startup, I mentioned that earlier. Why not? It's running your own business is definitely an opportunity that should be thought about. It won't suit everybody by any means, but there will be some incredible young people who've got very high level skills around digital and tech, for example, and other areas as well. Could be hospitality, food businesses. Why shouldn't they start and run businesses from as early an age as they choose to, if they're confident and comfortable with doing that? We need to provide the support for them to be able to do that. Maximise the opportunities in the green economy. I think I've already covered quite a lot. Removing barriers and building bridges and steps to allow positive progression. Again, it's not just young people. I think across our kind of skills landscape, we know there are certain kind of pitfalls and areas where people get a bit stuck. Not being able to access an apprenticeship without either being able to do or having achieved level 2 maths and English, for example. Are there other things we could do around that in terms of just harnessing people's creativity and aptitude rather than focusing just on that level 2 maths and English? Again, we're pushing at GMCA for policy change on that through the funding levers that they've got available. And then mainly, I think for us, we need to stay part of and develop the conversation and the response to increase productivity and sustainable economic growth that benefits all. You know, you are a community of practitioners who we really need to hear your voices, because you speak directly to young people all the time, and you're in one of the best positions to come back to us saying, right, Richard, this is what we're saying. You know, these are the issues, these are the problems they're facing, this is how you can help. Could you lobby for this? Could you access funding for that, etc.? So it would be good if we can develop something going forward that keeps us all in touch regularly, where we can share that information and knowledge, and we can certainly start to feed that into providing a more effective system response. And that's it for me, Caroline. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Richard. I hope you'll all agree. A really good insight to what's going on in Stockport at the moment and what the outlook is for the times ahead. A really positive view as well of what's coming up and how people can be involved in that too, and a bit of an open invitation there as to how people can get involved as well. So we'll share Richard's contact details at the end. So thanks very much for joining us, Richard. Next, we're going to come on to Matt from the ASK programme as part of the Greater Manchester Learning Provider Network, who's going to pick up on some of those points that Richard touched on in terms of vocational learning, to pick up on some of those foundation jobs within the Stockport economy, and look at some of the different transition and career pathway routes beyond traditional A levels as to how young people might tap into those. Now Matt's joining us from another event, very kindly agreed to do so, and this presentation is normally something that he delivers in around 45 minutes, but he's agreed to condense that into a 10-minute snapshot for today. So if anyone would like to hear more from Matt afterwards and has questions as a result of Matt's presentation, then by all means we're going to share his details again at the end, and you can invite him in for a longer session. So I'll pop Matt onto your screen now. Matt, are you going to share your own slides, or do you want me to pop them on?
I can share my own slides, I think. They should be showing right now. Can you see those, Caroline?
I can, but I don't think anyone else can, so I'll just switch them across. There, everyone can see them now. So over to you, Matt. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Caroline. Yeah, hello, everyone. I'm sure some of you will already know me, so hello to those that do. For those that don't, my name is Matt Lee. I work for the Greater Manchester Learning Provider Network, and one of the many priorities that we have is to promote vocational skills and learning to young people and employers. So today I'm coming at it from the young person's perspective, and really as a kind of bit of a reminder of what apprenticeships, traineeships and T levels are. And as Caroline touched on, this is the abridged version. So I'll start with the one we all know about, apprenticeships. Been with us some time, have gone through some significant changes in the last few years, which has resulted in lots more apprenticeships being available. And I think the simplest definition is that they are a job with training. So an apprentice goes to work, they are employed, they do a job. By doing that job, they gain work experience. The apprentice also continues to study and work towards further certification and qualification, so that at the end of an apprenticeship, a young person or any person has qualification, but they also have the crucial work experience as well. Now, apprenticeships are available to anybody aged over 16 who's not in full-time education at the moment they start their apprenticeship, and there is no upper age limit on apprenticeships. So we're seeing an increase in particular of opportunities for older people who are upskilling in their current jobs or utilising apprenticeships to change career and move up in a new direction. So it's not just for young people, but in the context of today, I'll be focusing on young people. Apprentices are paid a salary. That salary at the moment, there's a minimum salary of £4.81 per hour. I would say my experience of employers in Stockport and wider Greater Manchester, employers pay apprentices reasonably well. I would say that The range for a young person leaving school going into an apprenticeship instead of college would sit somewhere between about £8,500 and £12,000, and for a college leaver moving into, say, higher or degree apprenticeships, that range is probably between about £14,000 and £19,000, and is creeping up at the moment as well. So as I mentioned, the apprentice spends some time at work, and they spend 80% of their time doing their job. The other 20% is set aside working towards that certification and working towards that qualification. Apprenticeships must last a minimum of 1 year. Any less than that, the apprentice isn't gaining the necessary amount of work experience. There's certainly not enough time to do the learning element of the apprenticeship and gain the certification. They can actually go up to 6 years. So, for example, the solicitor degree apprenticeship is 6 years in length. There are at the moment, when I last checked, and I haven't checked today, 648 different types of apprenticeship standards, so an incredible amount. Again, to the best of my knowledge, I would estimate around 400 of those are available in Greater Manchester. Of course, some areas have industry and sector specialisms that we don't have here, so we don't find many submarine building apprenticeships in Greater Manchester, for example. Apprenticeships also range in levels, and they go from equivalent to GCSE, what we call intermediate apprenticeships, so level 2, right up to master's level 7 degree apprenticeships, and all those levels in between. So that means there is an entry point for everybody, but also an opportunity, if you start on one of the lower levels, to progress up the levels as well. So that's apprenticeships, very short and snappy. How do you find an apprenticeship? I think if you've got year 11s, especially that you're working with at the moment, I would recommend pointing them straight to the government's Find an Apprenticeship website. It's where employers post apprenticeship vacancies. Whilst it certainly doesn't have all apprenticeship vacancies, in my opinion, I think it's still the website where you will find the most live vacancies at any place. Students can use that to search. They can also use that website to make their applications as well. Traineeships then, these have been around, I think, since 2014, and they're going through a little bit of a rebrand at the moment, both at national level and also a combined authority level as well. And I think the simplest definition for those is they're a stepping stone to an apprenticeship. You might want to call them a pre-apprenticeship. They're something that leads on to an apprenticeship or full-time employment, and they're available for 16 to 24-year-olds. And the ideal candidate, I would say, would be a young person who perhaps is looking at an apprenticeship but hasn't quite got the skills or qualification that employers are looking for, or perhaps they themselves don't yet have the confidence to feel that they can go into that kind of full-time employment role. So it consists of 3 significant components: English and maths support for those who haven't achieved a grade 4 at GCSE whilst they were at school, and that is classroom based. A recent addition is to add in digital skills into that as well. Secondly, it has an employability skills element, so the usual stuff you would expect, kind of CV building, application support, using search functions to find job opportunities, but also some of those skills around sustaining employment once you've got a job, so kind of team building, resilience, that sort of thing. And the third component, I feel it's the most crucial, is a work placement opportunity, and that is with a real employer. Now, this is unpaid because it is work experience, but costs for travel and expenses are usually covered either by the employer or the training provider, so that that young person isn't out of pocket for going on that work placement. And there they'll have a real experience of a real workplace doing a real job. And the idea is then at the end of the traineeship that the young person would progress either into employment or, preferably in my opinion, into an apprenticeship where they can continue to develop those skills. Ideally, it's with the employer they've done their traineeship with. However, that's not always the case. But the role of the training provider at the end of the traineeship is to support the young person to move into employment and move into apprenticeships. Now, there's a lot of flexibility in traineeships. That's why you see that really broad range that they're available from anything between 6 weeks and 12 months. That means a bespoke programme can be created for that young person. So say a young person just needs a little bit of work experience support, what could be a really short 6 to 8 week programme. If a learner is a little bit further from the workplace and needs that additional support, well, the provider can deliver something that lasts up to 12 months in length. And in that particular scenario, you wouldn't expect the actual work placement to last 12 months. In terms of eligibility, anyone that's qualified up to and including level 3 is aged between 16 to 24 is eligible to go on to a traineeship. And thirdly, I suppose the new kid on the block are T-levels. T-levels actually started in September 2020. Very small numbers delivered by one sixth form college in Greater Manchester. The real kind of upsurge start really took place with 8 of the 9 FE colleges last year in 2021. So we're seeing a very cool small cohort finish this year, but we'll start to see some real numbers next year. So what is a T-level? It's a technical alternative to A-levels that prepares young people to progress into employment or again into higher or degree apprenticeships. It's a 2-year course, same as A-levels, but in this case it's going to be 80% studying and a mandatory 20% work placement element. You could think of it as the reverse of an apprenticeship, I suppose. However, like the traineeships, the work placement is unpaid. That's a minimum of 45 days. Now, the T-levels and the assessments that go with them have been designed by employers. And we also find that a lot of colleges, as Richard touched on, are influencing the kind of shape and format and content of the curriculum as well to ensure alignment between the work placement and the studying that goes on in the college. A T-level is equivalent to 3 A-levels. You only do it in one specific subject. Word on the ground is that actually they're arguably more challenging than 3 A-levels. The kind of number that's been quoted at me recently by people at the combined authorities, they're probably as hard as 3.5 A-levels. So they're certainly not an easier alternative to the traditional kind of academic route. Entry requirements, level 2 maths and English, although that has been or is very soon to be removed, which is quite contentious at the moment. There will be 24 different programmes available by September 2023, and by then all 9 FE colleges will be delivering, and we will also start to see some independent training providers start to offer T-levels as well. And as I said, the progression routes out of them are straight into employment for an 18-year-old, of course, but also to lead into higher or degree apprenticeships as well, or also into further study, continuing at university. And I think all 4 Greater Manchester universities have agreed that they will take on T-level these are ultimately the courses that we'll end up with. I won't be reading through all these right now, but you can see there the broad range of opportunities that will be available. And I think it's fair to say we will start to see a displacement from BTECs as well. That certainly appears to be government policy at the moment. Whether BTECs will completely disappear or not, I can't really predict that at the moment, because I think there's some areas that certainly aren't covered by all of these T-levels. If you want to find out more information for yourselves, for your students, for your parents, I'd highly recommend the amazing Apprenticeships website. As it suggests, it does specialise in apprenticeships, but there are resources on there for traineeships and T-levels as well. And finally, just to finish, for those of you who don't know me, I deliver the Apprenticeship Support and Knowledge, or ASK programme in Greater Manchester. It's a free resource for schools and colleges for their students in years 10 to 13. I'm sure some people on the call have utilised me previously. And what that support looks like is assembly presentations, classroom workshops around how to go about finding apprenticeship opportunities, how to navigate the recruitment process. As I'm here at Aquinas at the moment, it's about parents' careers events, and it's also about updating teachers' knowledge as well. So as I said, that snapshot I've done today is normally kind of 40 to 45 minutes in length, where I can go into much more detail. If you do want to contact me further, find out any more, I think Caroline will share my contact details out, and I'll provide a little bit more detail on the ASK programme for her to share as well. But thank you very much for listening to me today.
Thanks so much for joining us, Matt. As I said, from another event as well, that's absolutely brilliant and very good of you to cram it all into such a tight time slot for today. So thanks very much for doing so. I will, of course, share your details at the end so people can find out more about the ASK programme. And as I say, the completely free support that's available to schools as well. So thank you very much for that. We're next going to come on to Claire Walker. So I'll allow Claire to introduce herself while I just tee up her slides. And they should be on the screen for you now. So over to you, Claire. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Yeah, they are. Thank you so much, Caroline. And indeed, thank you to you and Richard for having me on today. I'm really pleased to be able to support and be involved with all of this. And just to say to all of you people out there, I can't see who's there, but if you haven't engaged with the wonderful offer that Caroline and the Jobs Match team do in Stockport, you're really missing out on some fantastic content that's going to really, really help you to provide a really comprehensive programme to your students. So bit of a plug for you there, Caroline, for people that don't know about you or haven't experienced the great stuff that you can provide. So as I say, I'm not quite sure who's out there. I'd like to think that most people would know me. So yeah, Claire Walker, I am part of the Bridge GM team, which is part of the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. I have a role and responsibility to work with all the schools in Stockport and all the colleges and the SEND schools. So I've got 22 education providers that I link with and hopefully have quite a strong professional relationship with by now. It's been tricky, obviously, for all the obvious reasons that we're all very aware of in the last 2 years. Engagement has not been at the level that we would like, but that has been beyond anyone's control. I'm not having a pop about that. I'm really hoping that now that life has started to improve, that we're on a kind of an upward trajectory out of the pandemic, and that we can start to get back to some of the old and traditional kind of events and activities that we were able to provide pre-pandemic. So yeah, if you could go on to the next slide, please, Caroline. So Richard, I really enjoyed Richard's overview and insight there about the local picture in Stockport, and obviously, given that I work within the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, I have a vista over the entire kind of 10 local authority areas, but I am genuinely really proud to be working in the Stockport patch because I am a Stockport resident and my children have all been educated in schools and colleges in the Stockport area. So I really have a vested passion in terms of making sure that we get it right for young people in the SK area. Just to sort of give you a little bit of context, people tend to sort of relate to me and think, oh, Claire's the lady that comes in, or Claire's the lady that supports us with our careers programme. Yes, I absolutely do. And Richard referenced there the Gatsby benchmarks, which I'm sure many of you can probably rattle off in your sleep because it's kind of bread and butter stuff that you're dealing with all the time. But I just wanted to stress and make the point that the job that I do is far more than just being the lady that comes in and supports with careers. It's a much bigger agenda than that. And I would go as far as to say is I feel that I work for the Mayor of Greater Manchester. I feel that myself and the team, the Bridge GM, we deliver on all of Andy Burnham's kind of priorities and his strategies for young people. So there's a couple of links there for people if you want to go and have a little bit more information there. But it's very much an overarching agenda about how young people are educated and transition and contribute, I guess, to a thriving and prosperous economy, not just in Greater Manchester, but obviously within the locality towns such as Stockport. Next slide, please, Caroline. So again, just a little bit more about the kind of the nature of the work that we do. So without giving everybody a history lesson, going back to 2017, you may or may not know that the careers strategy was launched by the government. DfE released the careers strategy, and obviously there's pages and pages of information there if you want to go through that if you're not familiar with. But one of the key kind of asks, I guess, or the key kind of requirements and sort of actions to move forward in terms of transforming how careers is delivered in schools and to give careers related education parity in the curriculum, there was a real kind of drive around the absolute necessity really to include employers and businesses and enterprise to support that learning, because you know if we're going to be able to teach our young people about how to navigate that world of work, who better to do it than people that are actually representatives within the sectors and the professions within those industries. So that was basically the birth of the Enterprise Advisor Network, which is a slightly strange term because we're more than just an Enterprise Advisor Network. But the Enterprise Advisors are business volunteers who act in a strategic way and are a critical business friend to senior leadership teams and the careers leaders out there. So if you are a school who is without an Enterprise Advisor at the moment, I am working on that. And for those of you who have an enterprise advisor, I think you'll probably agree that they have been really quite crucial and quite supportive in terms of the delivery of your programme and having a look at what the required outcomes are for your students. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, this is just a little bit about why enterprise advisors are so critical to what we do. As I said before, I appreciate life's not been the way it should have been the last 2 years. So anything that you might have done in collaboration with your enterprise advisor will definitely have slowed down. But we can see there from some of the statistics that we've had from the Careers and Enterprise Company, who are the vehicle for the government to fund careers in schools and colleges. You can see there some quite significant sort of statistics around the improvement and the additionality that an enterprise advisor can bring to what you're trying to achieve in your careers policies and programmes. Next one, Caroline. That's just quite a nice kind of slide there that I like in terms of showing, hopefully, the skill and the support and the, I don't know, I suppose the unique kind of thing that I'm able to bring to the table, really, and to support what you're achieving or what you'd like to achieve with your schools and with your students. And it goes a little bit beyond that. I think Richard mentioned there before, as did Matt, about the importance of ensuring that parents and carers and the sort of people who influence young people or young people that are at school or college or wherever they happen to be on their kind of journey, I think we've got a real kind of role to ensure that that information is shared as widely as possible, so that parents and carers can take those journeys with their children and understand what the world has to offer and what the current education system is. You know, Matt talked there about, you know, some parents might just be getting to grips with the fact that they've changed GCSE grades from letters to numbers, so they're just kind of grappling with that. And then Matt's talking about T levels, and it's like, oh, do BTECs not exist anymore? So I feel that we've kind of got that consultative and kind of educative role to support schools in what you're doing. And obviously the benchmarks is the kind of the framework, the quality framework that we use to drive that agenda. And I just want to say to anybody who's listening today, and indeed beyond today, I don't ever want people to ever feel threatened by the benchmarks, or to feel that when I come in to do the compass assessments with you, that it's, you know, if I'm coming from a place of judgment. I'm absolutely not. I'm coming from a place of wanting to support you at the highest possible level, so that you can be as prepared as you ever could be for Ofsted to come in and have a look at your careers programme. So it's purely there just to generate some really important conversations about how to do that in the best possible way. Next slide, please, Caroline. I'm not going to go on and on about this, because I'm sure you'll all agree you get this on a weekly basis through the Bridge GM bulletin that we send out. If you're not getting that Bridge GM bulletin, I'm going to leave my details with Caroline to share at the end. It's an absolute chock-a-block, amazing piece of information for you to have, or a resource for you to have in terms of the content there. So you will all probably be well aware of Meet Your Future. Meet Your Future, as the slide explains, was actually one of Andy Burnham's campaigns to ensure that young people were having the benefit of experiences and encounters, not just in the old traditional sense of work experience, but in just having those conversations. And that can happen in a variety of different ways. And the way it has been happening, obviously, has been by video link, which is exactly what we're doing today, which isn't the best way to do it. But under the circumstances, was the next best thing we could do to ensure that young people throughout the pandemic were still having the opportunity to have those networks and to have those conversations and build up their own idea about what the world of work has to offer them. Meet Your Future is one of our ways of doing that. Next slide. I don't know how well you can see that. If your eyesight's anything like mine, it might just look a little bit like snakes and ladders, which is what it looks like to me. If you can look at it, actually, if you can look at that in a bit more detail, and I have shared this with all my careers leaders and senior leaders in the schools that I support, this is an example of what benchmark 5 and what benchmark 6 should really be doing for you, and in terms of what sort of kind of solutions, activities, events can you be doing as a school to hit that benchmark fully, or those benchmarks fully. So it's just quite a nice kind of image there, really. I suppose it's symbolic of how this all needs to start very much lower down in the school. I think, you know, in years gone by, schools might have a bit of a flurry of activity in year 9 and not very much after options. And then all of a sudden again, like end of year 10 into the beginning of year 11, it's like, oh, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? Any careers policy and any careers programme has to be progressive, and it's got to start from the very first possible opportunity. When students are coming in from primary schools, I would love to do careers work in primary schools, and I know Richard referenced that as, you know, a good thing to do. Maybe for another day, I'm definitely up for that conversation, but in terms of you guys in the schools, that is an example of what your kind of employer encounters could look like. Next slide. So Gmax, this, I could do a full hour on Gmax, and I know obviously I've got a limited amount of time here. Again, if you don't know about Gmax, I think you must have been hiding in a hole for the last 2 years. Gmax is the Greater Manchester Apprenticeship and Careers Service. Again, it's a very high profile part of Andy Burnham's kind of Young People's Manifesto. And again, it is a digital platform which anybody can engage with. So anybody can type in Gmax on any search engine, Gmax will come up. You can go into that. It is full of information, advice. It doesn't matter who you are. There is information there. Please have a look at it. Again, there, just in terms of how you can make it work for you, some key messages there about what it'll allow you to do and what will allow you to support your students to do. And again, with parents, next slide. Yeah, again, just some kind of like some interesting stats and some pretty impressive figures that we're really quite proud of in the combined authority. Big sell from me, if you're not using Gmax, you need to start using Gmax. It could be the answer to all your prayers, and it definitely aligns with all the benchmarks. I've got plenty of schools in Stockport who are using it, loving it, and are great advocates for it. And if you want to find out more information and you've not got my details, once again, if you could get those from Caroline at the end when we share kind of contacts. Again, lots of really interesting information there just about why it's important that you're using Gmax and why it's so important, and kind of going back a little bit, I suppose, just aligning to some of the early comments, very important early comments that Caroline made about knowing what the local picture is and kind of like what information do we think we know, but do we actually really know what we're talking about? And I know from a recent conference that I've been to, labour market information or skills intelligence in a very short space of time has moved significantly, and there are a range of sectors that really have been left standing because of the pandemic, and that's a conversation we can have separately. But I think Gmax again is the tool to sort of bring that into your classrooms and generate some really important conversations with students. And then that's just a nice kind of image for you to have a look at there, quite powerful in terms of where Gmax is going next. We're in the middle of a really big update, technical update. I'm sure there's a much more digital savvy word for that, but we're going through like, we're upgrading the system. It's going to be a bit more sophisticated. And what that's going to bring it about is all of the other agendas here that I just said at the very start. I'm not just the person who comes in to help you with careers. It's about some really sort of high priority kind of agendas and issues that we need to tackle, you know, all over the world for that matter. But these are things that are important to the mayor and things that we're trying to address. Gmax is the way for us to get that all on the same platform and be able to share that with everybody. I know there's no time for questions, and if you have got questions, I think most of you know where to come and find me. Caroline, thanks once again for having me. It's been really good to have the platform to speak to everybody en masse like this. I'm also going to be going and seeing Matt. I'm actually going in my capacity as a parent to Aquinas now, which is why Caroline put me on next. Thank you so much.
That's brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Claire. Really do appreciate you joining us and cramming everything in. And a really good insight there as to Gmax and the support that's available and some of the other initiatives across GM to give everybody a real insight into what's available. Some fantastic resources that we're covering today for everybody to take advantage of, some free resources for your school. So if any of those you're not already taking advantage of, please look out for the details that I will share at the end and be sure to make those connections. So next we're going to come to Ian Mcgarry from Greater Manchester Higher. So are you able to share your own slides?
I am. Can you see that one okay, Caroline?
I'll tee it up for you now. I think that everybody should be able to see it in a second. There we go. Brilliant. So over to you, Ian. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for inviting me to this session. So my name is Ian Mcgarry, and I'm the IAG manager of an organisation called Greater Manchester Higher, which is working in lots of schools across the region at the moment. It's quite a nice organisation to work for because we're impartial. We're here to encourage people predominantly from disadvantaged backgrounds to consider higher education. And increasingly, when we say higher education, we're talking more than just university, as some of the speakers have been telling you about. So we are basically all the state, FE and university together in a confederation. We provide that impartial IAG and outreach. A lot of that involves workshops, presentations in schools, but beyond that, there's a rich vein of other activity out there, some of which I'll talk you through on the later slides. We're funded by the Office for Students, and we're part of a wider network called UniConnect, which is up and down England in different regions. So our priority, this isn't exclusively what we do, but our priority are widening participation groups. And by widening participation, we mean cohorts of people who are traditionally underrepresented in terms of going on to higher education. Our work is concentrated at year 9 to year 13. And we have a targeting methodology. It's a little bit clunky, and apologies for those of you who've had to navigate through this over time, but it's a lot of different data sources that basically allows us to target people from specific schools or specific wards where traditionally not a lot of people have gone into higher education. What we want is people working with us over a sustained period of time, coming back to work with us over 2, 3, 4 years, and that informs our monitoring and our impact and the tales we can tell afterwards. Basically, no surprises, the more people who engage with outreach, the more likely they are to go to university and the more likely they are to make successful transitions as well. We're a big organisation as well. We use a database called HEAT, which tracks all the universities and what they do nationally in Greater Manchester. We delivered 28% of all the outreach in the region between 2017 and 2019, all the outreach about universities. And for over half of the schools and colleges in the region, we were the main provider of that outreach for university. We're a team of 40 people, and as I say, it's good work, and we're here to support those bigger picture ambitions around careers guidance, hopefully not working in silos, working together to complement what we do. Okay, so little tale before I get into GM Hire. It is actually quite an interesting time to work in higher education at the moment. If you were over the news 2 or 3 weeks ago, there's a lot of reforms happening and coming down the way. The language coming out of government is a little bit pointed. I think the days of Mr. Blair's 50% participation targets for people to go to university have come to an end. And understandably, higher education has had quite a lot of a bounce in the last 2 years. The popularity always increases during an economic downturn, but there's something like 38% of all 18-year-olds in England made a UCAS application last year. Yes, there's geographical differences, especially across Greater Manchester, those differences are there. But what we're seeing around trends, people choosing degree subjects, law and STEM subjects seem to be getting a lot of traction. And these are also subjects where increasingly there are higher in degree apprenticeships available. UCAS did some polling last year of people year 13s, and over 50% of people who were making university applications said they wanted to know more about the alternatives, apprenticeships, and these new higher technical qualifications which will be developed in the next couple of years. And that's the space at level 4 and level 5, qualifications that stop short of a degree but can go on to be topped onto a degree later. Hot topics, I could have written a lot of bullet points here, but the student experience has been fully in focus. I won't go into detail, but over the last 2 years, it's fair to say that students at university have had a very, very, very different experience managing COVID and social distancing. Some of those tales were very close to home as well. My antennae locally is that we're coming out of a situation where Everything has been virtual. The open days are getting back to physical events, which is really important for people to get up close on campus and meet people face to face. There are some elements of blended learning that are continuing when we're talking about teaching. So those notionally, those all massive big lectures that we all used to enjoy, some universities are retaining that online. And the other area which I will just touch on is around mental health as well. We all know the pressures young people have been under at the moment. There's a lot more investment going into university, and rightly so, to improve the mental health support once people are there and to make sure they transition and thrive and survive at university. These are all things, as young people and parents engage with university, they should be tested for in the as university and higher education comes into focus. Accommodation, the cost of, is fully in focus at the moment. Martin Lewis is your man to go to there, but what Martin Lewis is foregrounded for some people, normally middle income backgrounds, the cost of accommodation can outweigh, if not be pretty much the whole of the maintenance loan. And this is why we're seeing a growth in students commuting. I think it's about 18% of undergraduates now nationally will prefer to stay at home and commute to university. And again, I think finance is a bit of an issue around there. The last couple of weeks we have changes to student finance. So if you're anyone dealing with current year 12s, there will be little subtle changes for them to navigate. Firstly, the repayment term is going up from 30 to 40 years. So people will be paying money off for longer, although the government will be saying those repayments will be more manageable because they're linked to RPI. They don't gather the same rate of interest at the point they're taken out. But the thresholds have come down to £25,000 from 27,295. So more people will be expected to repay in full. At the moment, there's around about 23% of undergraduates that repay in full. The government predict when these changes work through, that will go up to about 52% of people. And that's because of the pressure on the student loan book. Graduate outcomes, fully in focus. So the government are talking incendiary terms, things like low quality courses, which jar somewhat, but a graduate outcome should be more than just money. It should be about the experience of being at university, the networks, the capital culture that people get. But we can't deny that more people before they're going to university are now asking about what's the job I can expect from this degree, what can I expect in terms of help to get into employment from this university, and people are pushing for more information beyond the marketing. Underrepresentation can cover a lot of different audiences, but white working class learners have been a very neglected group in the last 5 to 10 years and are very much in focus, I think, for all of us at the moment. Very difficult nut to crack, but there's work to be done here by universities to encourage more applications and interest from white working class learners, or give them a better tale about the alternatives to university at age 18. And the final thing, not got the detail, the new head of the Office for Students is going to put more compulsions on university to work with schools to raise attainment. The devil will be in the detail there, what that means, but expect more strategic links between universities and schools, especially in those disadvantaged areas. Okay, so that was a quick synopsis of what's happening in higher education. Let's have a look at what GM Higher can do to support your learners. So firstly, we've done a lot of improvements to our work in the last couple of years. We're linking obviously to Gatsby, and what we're trying to do is link the world of higher education and careers a little tighter together. So if I was to go through the entire GM Higher offer, I don't think anyone would like me, I'd be talking for about an hour. So these are just selective things I'm picking out. The first 3 experiences are experiential things, curriculum connections. So trying to get enrichment activities that enhance and complement the things that are taught across the national curriculum. And these are events that can be hosted on campuses across the region, FE colleges and universities. Some of this can be done in the classroom as well. Subject tasters, that's direct information of people who've got an interest in a specific university degree subject area, what's available locally, and again, how that connects to the area of work. And we're beginning to get more employers involved, a programme called Industry Insights, where we explore particular career pathways and then talk about the different qualifications, the different routes that can get people there. There is an emphasis on higher level skills, of course, which is a proxy, hopefully, for people looking at different types of higher education. As I mentioned, the majority of what we do, workshops and presentations in schools. We're back to face-to-face campus visits. Hooray! Fantastic, because that didn't quite translate really well into the world of virtual. A lot of demand there. If you've got an ambition for a campus visit to a university or an FE college, I'd say act quickly because demand is there. The next two sections, parental engagement, that is an area we have had successes online. It's been great to do some work with Aquinas College, and with my background in higher education and admissions, student recruitment, I'll be very interested in speaking to anybody where I can support parental events to talk impartially about higher education. And the final couple bits, targeted learners, by that we mean people with particular characteristics, so people with disabilities, for example. We did a Breaking Barriers event, and we run these kind of things throughout the year. We do events for care leavers, people who are estranged as well. So again, if you've got those target learners, it pays to have a look at the Greater Manchester Higher website. I'm going to give a quick plug for summer schools, because that's our big ticket item on its way. So again, we've got, if it's in pinky purple, it is a physical offering. If it's in blue, it's a blended offering, part physical and part virtual. But we've got 4 for year 10s. Summer schools here. Imagine lifted titled. Salford wears Prada, I'm told, is about fashion, thank goodness. Murder on the campus, hopefully is not a real life situation, but really lots of take up to talk about careers in the legal profession and associated as well. 190 of those places, bookings are now open. Priority again for people from WP backgrounds, but not exclusively. If there's room for others, we'll accommodate them. And we've got 3 for year 12s as well. Again, the second one I'll pick down, the engineering one, we're hoping, without trying to stereotype too much, we're hoping that's where we get interest, particularly from boys, because what I won't hide the fact is a lot of these events at the moment are predominantly female students coming on them. If anyone out there can encourage boys to look positively and maybe look and engage at summer schools, particularly this one that was going to look at Formula 3 kit cars at University of Salford, please encourage those boys to take an interest. And finally, I'm not Vicky Sinfield, but Vicky Sinfield is our Greater Manchester Hub Manager for Stockport. She has been for 5 years. She does a fantastic job linking with colleagues from the Combined Authority, the local council and schools. I've rattled through a lot of information. Please give Vicky a shout to pick up on anything you've heard in this presentation. And finally, the website, gmhire.ac.uk. Really tactile. It's the ability for you to type in your school, and if the algorithm's working correctly, it'll tell you about the events or activities that are available to you in a very straightforward way to book or express an interest in those. And there you go, that's me. It's been lovely to have this opportunity to talk to you. Please don't be strangers in the years, and anything we can help and advise you in these tricky times, please get in touch. Thanks for listening.
Thanks very much, Ian. Again, a lot of content crammed into a short space of time, so thank you so much for coming to share that with us today. So a really good insight there for perhaps our 16 to 18 plus cohort who are listening today, to find out about rather those who provide advice to that age, to find out what's on the horizon for HE as well. Lots of what we've covered today is focused on that post 16, but good to look forward to what comes after that too. So if anyone would like to find out more about Greater Manchester Higher and the fantastic resources and the summer schools that Ian mentioned at the end, we'll be sharing the contact details of the local coordinator and the closing dates for some of those applications for the summer schools, and the website details at the end. But thank you very much for joining us today, Ian. Another great presentation. Next, we're going to come on to Nancy and Emma, who are joining us today from the Prince's Trust. So Nancy, Emma, are you both going to go at the same time, or is one of you going to go first? Or
I'm going to share the slides, and I'm going to be doing some talking first, and then it will be Nancy.
Okay, so if you can bring up your slides, because I've still got Ian's at the minute, and then I can switch the screen over to yourself.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I think.
There we go. So we've got your slides now. Just need to switch you over to the. To be the speaker. Just bear with me. There we go. Sorry, slight technical delay there, everybody, but you're live now, Emma, on the screen with your slides as well. So thank you.
Thank you. So my name's Emma. I am Youth Development Lead for the Prince's Trust, and I'm here with my colleague Nancy. So we're going to be talking about basically our education offer. So one of the main things we do for our education offer is offer what we call an Achieve Club. So Achieve can be set up in pretty much anywhere, whether it's a school, whether it's a riding centre that we've just set up, whether it's alternative provision, you can have an Achieve Club. And being part of an Achieve Club means that you'll get access to all of our resources. All the resources will enable students to be able to gain a qualification in personal development and employability. So it supports predominantly 11 to 19-year-olds. However, we have had some exceptions for students who are NEET, so not in education or looking to go into education, who are older than 19, so there is some flexibility regarding that. But we're mainly looking at 11 to 19-year-olds. It's a very flexible curriculum. So there's quite a lot of topics which I'll put up in a moment that you can see that you can study. It does have an accreditation, so we are Ofqual accredited, and we will give you the resources and the training and support to be able to deliver Achieve at your setting. So some of the modules that you can study are the ones that are on screen now. So a lot of them could be something that you're already doing as part of an enrichment, as part of PHSE, but you can get a qualification for that. You can start off by getting the qualification from studying just 2 modules, and you can go up to 13. So you can get an award for doing 2 modules, or you can get a diploma for doing 13. So we also offer the qualification at different levels. So our initial level is an entry level 3. So that's looking at kind of year 9, kind of key stage 3 area, going up to level 1. So we're looking at GCSE grades kind of below a grade 5, and then level 2, which is looking at a 5 and above at GCSE level. So it's up to you which you choose to do at those levels. And one of the ways in which our qualification is really flexible is the evidence and how you can provide the evidence. So the evidence could be that you've done some worksheets. It could be that they have written an essay, but at the other end, it could be that they've done some artwork or a poster. It could be that you've recorded it or videoed it to be able to get their evidence and complete their portfolio. And we find that that makes it really easily accessible to a variety of students with different needs. And so it is an excellent way to get them that extra qualification should they need it. So all of your resources will be available on our hub. So the hub is really easily accessible, and I will make sure that we put up in the chat, which you should be able to see, the link to be able to get onto the hub. If not, I will give it to Caroline so she can send it out, so you can sign up to the hub. So we do update a lot of the content really regularly, so you will see lots of different, as well as the qualification modules, you'll also see some additional things like money management, things that you can use in PHSE, and just extra additional content that you can use for those extra modules and for extra credit for your students. And I am going to keep my slides up, but I'm going to hand over to Nancy, and she's going to talk about our Mosaic Mentoring.
Hello. So the difference between Achieve and Mosaic Mentoring really is that Mosaic's more of like a fixed term program, whereas Achieve you can sort of kind of run it on your own schedule, and it is delivered by the school or education organisation staff. But for Mosaic Mentoring, it is a fixed 8-week program, and obviously those dates are negotiated between the Prince's Trust and the education provider to what suits you the best. And the first session is delivered by Prince's Trust staff, so it would be people like me and Emma who are coming in to sort of like have a rapport building session with the young people. and sort of just get to know them and explain what the program is. And they will also meet the mentors, and the mentors will be the ones that are delivering the rest of the sessions throughout the 8-week program, and they are our volunteers. And we have a really wide range of volunteers working with Apprentice Trust. We have several corporate volunteers who are, in their industries at the moment and are using some of their time to come and provide their skills and expertise to work with young people. And we also have volunteers that are retired or are not in work at the moment or having a career change and just want to provide what skills they've experienced through other careers choices that they've made in the past, and are using those skills and experiences to help young people as well. So we currently have a couple of Mosaic mentoring programs on at the moment, usually in secondary schools. But again, this program can be tailored to suit each school's needs. So the content of the sessions aren't fixed. They're also quite flexible, as with Achieve. We can discuss with the school and the education provider sort of what does actually the young people in your setting need? What is it that they are looking for? And predominantly, Mosaic is really aimed for students that are wanting to expand their knowledge of the world of work, because the mentors are coming from mostly like a corporate or a business background. This program is really, really great for helping students with building kind of personal development skills and employability skills. And then there's also a world of work experience day at the end of the program as well, which again is organised between the school and Apprentice Trust based on what would meet the students' needs best. So how does Mosaic Mentoring help young people? It closes the gap between aspirations and attainment by connecting young people to positive, relatable role models through the mentors. It supports young people to build their confidence, because again, they have sessions that the mentors will run that not only focus on those employability skills like CV writing and cover letters, but will also go through things like self-esteem and confidence and building relationships with others, because these are skills that are sometimes overlooked in schools, or just like the students might just not have as many experiences in gaining those skills. And it also helps to develop those employability skills, as I said, such as communication, teamwork and career planning. And that is typically aimed around secondary school age students as well. I'm not sure if there's anything else I've missed there, Emma.
No, so just to add to what Nancy said, with Mosaic being quite flexible, so 2 of the current cohorts that we've just had running, one of them were 6th formers, so they were year 12, who've just applied to university, and they were feeling a bit not confident with their interviews. So a lot of their Mosaic was based around, is that university what they actually want to do, in addition to how can we help them prepare for their university interviews. And our second group that we've just finished was a group of year 10s who've become quite disengaged with school, and that Mosaic group was mainly focused around kind of building their confidence and finding out what they actually want to do. And most of that group was more tailored towards apprenticeships, and a lot of them really weren't fancying A-levels, to be honest. They didn't really fancy another 2 years stuck in school. And again, we tailored it to helping them apply and look for what kind of apprenticeships that they would be looking to do. If you have any of our programs running, so our Mosaic or our Achieve, we can also give you some enrichment. So we've got some enrichments running at the moment, including an Apple coding session. So we'll bring Apple iPads into school, into your education setting, and we can do a basic lesson in coding, and that's running really well at the moment. And we've just finished our enterprise challenge for this year, which is basically where students get to create a business, a pop-up business that they're able to run themselves through a game, and that is something that we offer every year. So again, if you've got an Achieve Club, we can offer those enrichments. So our sign up to the Education Hub, the link I will send to Caroline to send out, as well as our email addresses, but feel free to take them down. They're up on the slide at the moment. So either myself, Emma or Nancy, drop either of us an email and we'll be only happy to get back to you. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Emma and Nancy, for a really good overview there of some fantastic programmes for schools to take advantage of that really tackle some of those issues that we were talking about right at the start of the agenda that young people are facing at the moment. So some really fantastic things to tap into. And as mentioned, I will share those details at the end with everybody who's either watching live or has come back to watch us again later. So thank you very much to both of you for joining us. We've just got one final guest speaker to join us for today, which is Rhiannon Collins from Speakers for Schools. If you're able to pop on your camera for me, Rhiannon, that would be great.
Hi Caroline, I'm here.
Good stuff. Right, I will send you live now. I don't know whether you have a screen to share or whether you need me to share a screen.
So I thought I'd pop on and give us a tour of what Speakers for Schools can offer in terms of work experience and how we navigate that via the amazing Stockport Jobs Match. I'm going to apologise right from the beginning in the fact that I do have 2 young children in the house who are likely to hop in at any minute, dangers of working from home, and ask me for a snack. So I will just bear with me. So 2 seconds and I will share the screen. So here we go. So can we see that, Caroline, that is Stockport?
Couple of seconds delay, but it's coming. There you go.
Brilliant. So this is a fantastic Stockport Jobs Match careers hub that we're going to navigate into, which is where at Speakers for Schools we are placing all of our work experience. So there's loads of career guides on here. It's a fantastic resource. Loads of people in the directories and the career guides that I know Caroline has spent loads of time doing. But what we're going to hop into is the schools and colleges, and I will show you where all of our fantastic work experience placements are. So if we scroll down, so it's my son there in the background, you can see some of our opportunities here. So if we hop into any of these, you'll be able to see the work experiences. And register and apply now. Oh, here we go. So when you click onto here, you'll get taken into our website. So all of the programs are there. What we'll flick through is what you can find. So as we are adding placements, we are adding them onto the Stockport Jobs Match. So you'll be able to go and get your career guides, your CV and application tips, and all of the opportunities that you need were placed on the bottom. So all of the opportunities that Stockport students can apply to that are completely free. We don't charge for any of our VUX or our Discovery Workshop insights. So as we pop through, we've got a guide here. So this is our QR code, and you can find out all about why Speakers for Schools exists, why we offer virtual work experience, and what students can get out of it. So I won't go through because I know we're running over, and I'll try and squeeze it in as quickly as possible. But we have separated our work experience into 15 sectors, and these are the 15 sectors that you'll find on the National Apprenticeship site that other guest speakers have talked about earlier today. So anything that's on the apprenticeship website where you can find under languages, literature and culture, for example, you'll be able to click onto that if that's what you're interested in and find work experience. So if we pop into engineering and manufacturing opportunities, we'll see here that Bentley are offering a virtual work experience on the 7th of April for students who are aged between 14 and 19. And you pop into here, it will tell you more about those details. Sorry, I have a 7-year-old budging me here. So this is our Speakers for Schools website with all the virtual work experience opportunities. And that's where you get the information. 2 seconds, Caroline. I'm just going to sort my 7-year-old out before he pushes me off the desk.
That's quite all right, not a problem, Rhiannon. We're all used to working from home scenario. So whilst we're just waiting for Rhiannon to rejoin the call, she mentioned there very kindly about the Stockport Jobs Match website. So I'll just bring you to a couple of the resources that are available there for schools to tap into in case you're not aware of any of those at the moment. So we've got a fantastic new careers hub that has recently relaunched, which has its own dedicated section for schools and colleges. Within there you can access information about everything that we've touched on today. We've got a version of our Future World of Work webinar that is more geared towards the young people themselves, as well as for parents and carers, that is more bite-sized and accessible. So it's a 30-minute session broken down into 5-minute videos from each of our guest speakers today, talking about Future World of Work insights. We've got some information on accessing work experience, apprenticeships, applying for schools and colleges, and some great resources from lesson plans to PowerPoint slides to student and group activities that you can access as well. You can search a range of apprenticeship, training and kickstart jobs, as well as the work experience and volunteering opportunities that Rhiannon mentioned. We have a range of different career guides on there that are completely searchable, that are then linked through to employment opportunities, work experience opportunities, latest labour market information, and training courses, as well as featured employers. And we also have a selection of employer videos, day in the life insights from different businesses across Stockport for you to showcase to students, most of which are about 5 minutes long, some are slightly longer, 30-minute career talks, but fantastic resources for you to showcase for your students and take advantage of, part of all of the free resource delivered on behalf of Stockport Council. As well as a full list of support services that are available for young people should they need additional support. So all there for you on the Stockport Jobs Match website, and we will come to those details at the end. So hopefully, Rhiannon, you're able to just rejoin us now and continue telling us a little bit more about Speakers for Schools.
Yeah, thank you, Caroline, filling in there.
Yeah, I'll just send you live again. Sorry, Rhiannon, if you want to share your screen.
There we go. So you should now be looking at the Educators Prospectus. So we have several types of programmes that we run. We have a discovery workshop, which is a live broadcast into a classroom. You can run this for a small group of students. You can run it for a whole year group. We have 2 sectors, so 11 to 13 and 14 to 19. So these are all bookable. It takes 7 minutes. And again, we have linked these by curriculum sector. That's in the National Apprenticeship Service. So if we want to go and find out about languages, literature and culture, here we have local employers. Again, we work on a big national stage, so it might be Virgin Atlantic, and it might be a small employer. So this is an author here who lives in the Northwest and has written her own books, and she's also doing a discovery workshop. So educators can book these. It's very easy and simple. You click on one section here. It takes 7 minutes to book the session, and it's completely free. So as I said, we are skipping them all onto Stockport Jobs Match, so everything will be there that's available for children in the Northwest. Parents can have a look and see what they've got, and we also have booking forms where you can request if you haven't got anything. So all there on the Careers Hub, and I will send out slides and information to Caroline with everything that's coming up in the Northwest for people to access. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Rhiannon, amongst some challenging circumstances towards the end of the day and approaching tea time as well. So we do appreciate it. So there's some more information on the Stockport Jobs Match website about the Speakers for School platform, explaining about the benefits of work experience, accessing virtual work experience, employer insight days, career talks for your school, but also looking at things like how you can support young people to find work experience directly, make approaches to employers and how you might help them to research different sectors and industries that they might be interested in, and build relationship with businesses and access career mentoring and things like that. Now, we've covered a huge amount today, so thank you to everyone who has persevered and stuck with us right until the end. We hope that you found it a useful session. We've had a number of guest speakers that have taken part today, but also a huge number of guest speakers who wanted to take part that we've not been able to cram in. As Richard mentioned right at the outset, it would be great to get your feedback as to what you've enjoyed and to use this as a starting point to build engagement with primary schools, with secondary schools, with colleges, with further and higher education, with anybody who supports young people and would like to have these regular engagement conversations and the opportunity to perhaps interact with us as well, to tell us more about your challenges, how you'd like to receive this information, how best we can serve the young people that you are engaging with. So please do seize that opportunity. We'll perhaps send a further email round to get your opinions on how you'd like that forum to look, how frequently you'd like us to get engaged with us, and what the desire and uptake for that is. But we will be sharing all of the information at the end, or if you're watching us now back on a YouTube video as part of our pre-recorded session, all of the links and information will be on the web page below. As I say, I've been Caroline Patton from Stockport Jobs Match. Thank you very much for joining us today, and hopefully look out for more events as part of our labour market updates for careers advisors very soon. Thanks again. Bye.